Artomat.
Oh, Artomat. Okay.
Artomat, like laundromat, but art.
Because your art is automatic.
It's Artomatic. I'm
So my
automatically.
hip hop hands, if I do the hip hop hands, it makes it like.
It's different, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Is that
I'm
not the
gonna
vibe
need you
we're
to
going
stop
for?
that. I'm gonna need you to stop that. Just don't do that again.
Oh, especially
Focus.
because, you know,
Do
we
not
have
disturb.
Nasty Naj and like
Stop
his
calling
first
me
album,
that.
Illmatic, you know what I'm saying? So
No.
Nasty Naj and Artomatic.
Okay.
Okay, no, sorry.
Did
That's
we
not it.
just?
That's not the vibe.
This
That's
is
not
how
the
we're
vibe.
starting. This is how we're starting.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Now
Hey.
here with the artist extraordinaire JaQuanne LeRoy, and we are at the Artomat.
The Artomat. Yes.
Thank you for having us. Number
I am
one.
so glad y'all are here.
This
Yeah,
is
we're
like
glad
our
to be here.
12th time interviewing him.
Wow. Cause
He's one of our favorites.
Hey.
Which means that you're consistently creating too. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
There's that. It's not a. It's
Good
not
stuff.
an easy thing.
Because
Yes.
you know we don't mess with.
I know. You know. There's.
We have
It's
standards.
quality versus quantity.
And I wanted to tell you this. Jay was in the other room, and JaQuanne said, "This is nice. This is nice.
Yeah.
Y'all professional.
Y'all got it. Y'all don't see it, but it's set up.
We're learning.
It's lit. You know, I'm very well lit right now. I feel like, you know, I'm well taken care of.
You deserve it.
Amen. Amen. Yes.
So tell us why we're here.
Okay, this is the Artomat, and I have had the lovely privilege of working with the Artomat to just figure out what are they going to be using this space for to help creatives. I mean,
Okay.
you don't have a name Artomat and not
Yeah.
try to help people who are doing art
Yeah.
or involved in arts within the city. And so I was asked to be their second artist in residence, followed by Chiffon Taylor. And so I'm really excited to be in this space just to create. I know people are like, well, what's happening? You gonna be showing some work and you're gonna be doing this and doing that. There's still gonna be a little bit of that, bit of that, but the primary focus of me being here is to create.
Okay. So what are we creating? What are you feeling these days?
So there's a lot of feelings these days.
Yeah.
If people follow me, they know like my last year was like crazy.
whirlwind.
Every month was something on the book or the gram was happening. You know, there was like a new person in my life.
Yes.
My was then soon to be wife, and then we were engaged, and then we were getting a house, and then we were getting married twice, and we were just finding out that we were having a baby. And so last year was very active, and I would say God was moving. He was just on the move in my life. So I was just super excited last year, but also it was a little stressful, I can admit. Like, you know, all those exciting things meant like stuff had to get planned, stuff had to get done, so it was hectic. But I was happy to still be able to be a part of creative projects and still do creative things. But I also am learning balance. You know, like now that I'm gonna have a family, what is it gonna look like for me to be able to be there for that family and then also still be creative and influential in the community.
So how were you able, honestly, with all of that going on, to kind of make this connection? Because I know that there had to be some work just going into, you know, getting yourself here. So how did that go? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it the credit to the Lord.
Okay. Yeah, 100%.
But ultimately last year, this was another opportunity that presented itself. I did not know really much about Wilmington Alliance or the Artomat. I had I knew Akeem Lutz, you know, so I knew him, and he had a relationship with Khadidra, and so they were like, you know, we should connect with JaQuanne because he'd be doing art and in the community. And just like for me, I'm always, even though I am an artist, I still want to help creatives and really be a part of like just dope things that are happening. And so that was the nature of it. They brought me in to say like, hey, like we've got this space, you know, what do you think we should be doing? What are some ideas that you have of just different activities that should be happening here? And artist development is something that I know I've always needed as an artist, and specifically as a visual artist. While you can go to school, you can learn things online, but it's like teaching artists about their business,
Yeah.
teaching artists about how to deal with taxes and things of that sort. And I ain't figured it out yet, y'all. I'll be honest, like those are things that I'm actively still trying to figure out. And while people may look at me and say, well, he's done work with this entity or this organization, and he must have it figured out.
Yeah.
Imagine the person who doesn't have those interactions, they probably need just as much or if not more help than I may. And so my hope with, this residency outside of just the creative aspect is that, we can help to inspire them to say like, hey, like, let's do some artist development things here. Like, let's do some things that are going to help artists grow in this city. And then also develop an appreciation within the community for the arts.
Yeah.
So something I realized, there's been a trend in conversations recently on the show and off the show, artist development.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's bringing that up. And as someone who's going through artist development and is still going through artist development, when did you realize that you really needed to sit down and figure that out?
I think it was a constant realization.
Yeah.
It's like the first time somebody asks you to come and do like vend your work or even to exhibit your work.
Yeah.
They're asking you questions that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna make it as basic as possible, but they're saying like, where's your artist statement? Or they're asking
Lord.
you.
That stressed
like
me
your
out just
EPK
now.
Right.
shit. Like your, yeah.
My God,
Right.
flashbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
And most
wow.
entities are asking you and expecting you to already know what it is.
Yeah.
Not just have it, but already know what it is.
Right.
Already be just aware of just the things that you need when you walk in to be an exhibiting artist, or when you even like framing my work was something that, I remember a woman walked past one exhibition I had, and I think I just had posters out on the table. I wasn't exhibiting. I had a pop-up table.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing her say, those need to be in a frame. And I was like, dang, like it was loud enough for me to hear it,
Yeah,
And I'm like, well,
She probably shops for art a lot and like has a
this
certain
is true,
expectation. Yeah.
So those were moments where I, didn't even know even to call it artist development in the moment.
Yeah.
But looking back, it's like, oh wow, I needed a lot of things to get me to this point that would be helpful for another artist just to know about. Hey, if you're having a table, you should have business cards. You should have your Cash App. And on the other side of that, when people make their transactions, you should be keeping track of your expenses and your income and all of those things to make sure that, when tax time comes around, that you're good. And so those are just like very basic examples, but then there's also just the artists themselves and the creative side of being an artist, and not just the technical tools that you use, but just how you can think deeper about your artistry.
Yeah.
Those are things that it seems like a far shot from us at this point, because we're still trying to get, artists to just have more knowledge about themselves as a business. But I think it's all encompassing.
Is this your first residency?
This is not.
Oh,
this is not.
Okay, cool.
So I did a teaching artist and curatorial residency with Delaware Art Museum.
Wow.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
it was intense. It started at it's like September 2019 and went to, and then 2020.
Yeah.
So
Oh, what a weird time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which could be good because isolation, but very interesting.
well, the challenge was this residency was between 3 organizations.
Oh.
I know, don't just
Okay. Okay.
stay with me. Stay with me.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I know, because listen, this already sounds stressful, right? But it was between DCAD, it was
Okay.
between the Delaware Art Museum and the Chris White Gallery.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And so when the residency first began, it was between the Delaware Art Museum and Chris White Gallery. And then they brought in DCAD because of their ability to be able to house an artist.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
that just became a bit of a whirlwind because, the point of a residency is also to be able to create. And so
Right.
not only am I,
That's the main.
serving the art museum, serving the
yeah.
gallery, the Chris White Gallery, and serving DCAD, it's like, all right, well, I still have to create as an artist myself. And
Yeah.
I found it challenging to juggle all of those things and still be creating for myself.
Right.
And, I was supposed to have an exhibition, but things, fell apart because the year was crazy.
Yeah.
But, and that wasn't on them. It was like, I wasn't creating. I was like, I was creating things more on the side for my church, but like, I wasn't like doing the type of creativity that they were expecting me to do within my residency.
Very interesting.
So
how's this one been? Sorry.
yeah, it's been great. It's been great so far. I've just been, things are still crazy. I'm also still a teaching artist, as you know. And so I'm doing a little bit of teaching here, a little bit of coming here and create. And I will say though that having a space to create as an artist is crucial.
Yeah.
Not that you can't create anywhere. If you're a musician, you can create in your basement. If you're an artist, you can create in your dining room, in your closet, right. But having your own space to do it within has been really a blessing. And as I'm preparing for my little one to come, it's just like, feeling like I'm not like even having to give up that part of myself in order to be a father. So
I love it.
So I just want to backtrack really quickly. For a long time, I would hear the word residency, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So for music residencies, we kind of know like you go to a restaurant or you go to a hotel and you do a certain amount of days with your band. What is an artist residency?
Well, for a visual artist, I think it can look like a lot of different things. And there are some where you're going to go, you're going to live there, you're going to do some type of interaction with the organization where it's a give and take, where they're serving you in some capacity and you're serving them in some capacity. And a lot of times what that looks like is we're going to give you a space to create. You're going to have a studio and we're going to compensate you and we're going to ask you for certain things in return. For example, with the Delaware Art Museum, I was a teaching artist in that residency, and so when schools, specifically Kumba, would come for their field trips, I would be their teaching artist. I would be the person in the studio who's doing their projects with them. Now my relationship with Chris White and the college with DCAD was different. I was their curator in residence, and so I was
totally different.
Yeah, so it was like. And for me, I'm like learning, like my brain don't like necessarily to be
That's
like
a lot of
shifting gears in that way. From doing this form of creativity and planning to this form of creativity and planning. So I'm just like starting to nail down like, okay, these are the things I really enjoy doing, the things that I'm really good at and like doing, and this is what I want to do. But ultimately my role with DCAD and Chris White was to facilitate the exhibitions that were coming into their spaces. And so I got to work with Dominique Gaines, who he did an exhibition in there that was dedicated to his, he called it the Black Market. And it ultimately was, he had owned a grocery store or like a bodega, if you will, on 4th Street that I believe had a fire. And so it was kind of like this homage to the streets and like the bodega in my respect. And so that was a really cool project I did with him. Then I also got to work with Shannon Woodlow, who she had an exhibition where she collaborated with a poet to showcase her photography alongside that poet's work. And I think she had like recently gotten an award from Delaware Division of Arts. And so those were like the pretty much the only two things I got to do for Chris White. And then for DCAD, I was there working with their student gallery club, but then also working with their actual gallery to like just assist where I could. So I got to work with Monique Rollins and her work, and Catherine Page, and be able to just help as I could, figure out how they were going to lay out that exhibition within their space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Left field.
Uh-oh.
So we've interviewed a lot of the artists in the city. We've met a lot of the artists in the city and not necessarily interviewed them. May even have seen their work or spoken to them. How do you feel you fit within the Wilmington artist community? You guys are all so different. How would you fit in, and what would you give, like, the overall, like, if you were describing to someone from Utah, like, this is what you can expect from the artists in Wilmington?
I think we're a dynamic bunch. It's like, I just think about, there was a time where I was a part of I don't even know if I would call it an exhibition, but I've been a part of a lot of different exhibitions where I'm like, man, these are some really cool people. Mm-hmm. And like, I remember when I first started doing art and I met, I think I went to Terrence Van and Aleem Smith had a show at Chris White Gallery. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is not a city where you can be an artist. And I wasn't even necessarily thinking to do art. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that show?
Was that where we met?
It could have been.
I think that's where we met.
The years are blurry.
I know.
Yeah. But I was there and I was like, wow, this is right in Wilmington. And this is like around the corner from Market Street where I used to buy my shoes. And so it was just like surreal for me to know that like art was happening here. And then fast forward to like 2018, they're inviting me to be a part of their huge exhibition at DCAD where they have brought together all these artists.
I was there for that one.
The Local and Famous one, where it was just like so many people, so much of a variety of artists that they had brought together for that exhibition. And we had like some really cool pictures of us like in the elevator, and like we're just doing things that we had to do in the space to like, hang our work and talk about the exhibition and all of that stuff like that. So I would describe us as we are like, there's so much talent here on the visual art side. That's not even touching the other forms of art that are here. Like these two, they artists, in they own, they here interviewing me, but they own artists and be arting and stuff. And so
we be arting,
y'all be arting, y'all be making the music and all of those things. And I'll just be like, yo, these are like, so like seeing y'all's like ability to like give back to the community is like, I think that's the one push that I'm like, like how can we just be a little bit more selfless? Because everybody usually is like, I'm in my space, I'm doing my thing, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah. But I think slowly you get to a point as an artist where it's like, you have to get back. You have to be some other contribution to the arts community other than just, what you got for me.
To your point, and it's funny, I'm thinking about Aleem right now because he made a post yesterday, and I know what, like he sets you up so that you can
he does.
But he actually
it's a lot of words.
What he was basically saying is that, and it was opposite to what he normally says, which is why I know he's kind of messing with everybody. But he was basically saying that he sells all his art online, so I don't really even need to do this kind of thing.
Right.
But he just had a whole rant.
He almost got me with that one. I almost replied.
Yep, I did, and I knew what I was doing, what he was doing, because he would say, my whole point is I responded to that specifically, especially piggybacking off of something he said completely contrary to that the community part is really important.
Yes.
Like these spaces and the exhibitions are really important for the conversations and that interaction. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, we it's challenging because everyone's trying to be successful in their own right.
Yeah.
But and I've been a part of many conversations, many like sort of initiations for the artists to band together and to do things, but we're not, for the most part, we're not artists that can even just work as artists. You got to have a job.
Yes.
You got to so it's like you got 8 hours that you got to work during the day, and then you still have to on the back try to be creative for your own self, and then to now try to figure out a way to add on top of that. How do I give back to the artist community? How do I serve the artist community? It is challenging. Yeah. But one thing that comes to mind for me is that ultimately that time would not be wasted. I've spent more time, I think, in the last like 2 or 3 years kind of doing things to help other artists. And so I was giving my time to Chris White Gallery and helping to facilitate exhibitions that were there. And getting to see just the expression that artists have in being exhibited in any space, but Chris White is also a beautiful space. It was just really rewarding for me to feel like, all right, well, I'm not just doing this for myself. The artist community as a whole has to be built up for us to really see this thing thrive. And so if they're not doing things like this, then y'all don't know me.
Yeah.
And if,
Right.
So it's like if we're all just sort of working in our silos, there's not as much potential for the community of artists to be successful. Because we need the community to be successful for still each and every one of us individually to be successful.
Right. So what are you working on now? Like what kind of stuff you create? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. I'm looking around. I'm like, what am I
I mean,
doing?
there's things behind this, you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
But so I had this concept in this exhibition that I did in 2021 entitled Streetlights. And I'm a Christian, and there's like scriptures and references to light all throughout the scripture. And in that same vein, there's ultimately the presence of God all around us, and yes, I'm on 7th and Washington. I'm in the hood, and it's great. And for some people,
it's perfectly located. Sorry.
But it's like, for some people, they would look at this area and they would be like, oh, there's no way I would ever be, trying to be in that space or like feel comfortable in that space. And there's like, people on the corner doing who knows what. But most of the time, they're just people.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that there's this perception of darkness all around us that really, ironically, is happening in the city where it's always lit. There's always light. The street lights are out. There's cars driving by. There's traffic lights. There's just all types of light within the city.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking that as a metaphor to really create work that highlights not just the presence of light all throughout the city, but the presence of God in places that we just perceive to be consistently dark.
And I mean, listen, you follow that path. Bottom line, sorry, I'm about to go on a tangent. Is that this part of the city is likely to be the place where Jesus would actually be.
Oh yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
So the fact that you're in a place where many people could be served, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to get biblical because, but it's it really, you know what I mean?
I do.
Like,
I do.
literally, he wouldn't be in Westover Hills. He'd be here.
No, he would not. He probably would not. I think that's the point for me is people, I like my work is a little quirky. It's not your conventional work or subject matter around biblical themes, but I try to create work that people are like, oh, that's cool. And it's about Jesus. And for me, like just that, knowing that he's not like just one type of God that you've seen portrayed in art. We look at like sort of classical paintings of Jesus, and they all have a form, right?
Look like Jay.
They and a who? Yes. And I got to see what was that? The Book of Clarence, and I don't know if either of you have heard of it, but they had this like interesting like story of like how white Jesus came to be, and that ultimately it was a case of mistaken identity. And because there were many people in the time of Jesus that were proclaiming to be the Messiah, that were proclaiming to be
cloud chasers.
Oh, no.
Yes, ultimately.
No.
Hey, listen, there were all types of people in that time who were sort of pretending ultimately to be this true light that was coming into the world. And there's true light, and then there's artificial light. But saying all that to say, when I saw that, or when I was watching that movie, it just was such a funny depiction for me, and just like sort of a different way of thinking about the story of Jesus that reminded me of my own work, where people are looking at it and they're like, I see a halo, I see a light bulb.
Yeah.
Well, that one's red. Well, why is that one this one?
Right.
And I see the world, and like I said, it's just more of a street art style way of talking about some of these same themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Is
so
it?
interesting.
No, please.
Oh no, I was saying that's so interesting.
Yeah.
But you're really I feel like, are you consciously trying to make it something that's easier for everyone to connect with? You know what I'm saying? Or is it just kind of how it comes out?
Partially, yes.
Yeah.
I think the point of the gospel, well, I don't think, but I know the point of the gospel is that it's not supposed to be complex. It has a sense of offense to it because it looks at you. My pastor just said this to me earlier this week, but it looks at you and says you're a sinner. And that is hard sometimes for people to accept it. Like, yes, I believe in my heart that I'm a good person, but we all in essence fall short of the glory of God. And that's like a hard thing to chew on because it's like, not me, I be going to church and I be doing this. And I be
I'm just saying.
but we right. But in some capacity we're striving, right, to be good people.
Absolutely.
We're not like just out here just being like terrible people.
Right.
But we all have our stuff with us, you know, like, and the point of it is that not, people should feel like, oh, well, dag, like, I'm just this terrible person and there's no hope for me. And so I might as well go sell crack, or I might as well just go, abuse people, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
There's no point in trying. No, there is hope. That there is like a sense of a God that was so loving that he gave of himself, his only son, so that we could have everlasting life, so that we could have a hope to be better people. Not just like, on the other side, but in this current day. And so that's really like the message that I try to put out. My work sometimes is like, I be looking at it and like, I'm like, God, this don't feel like, what I feel like we should be trying to say. Why is it so dark? Why does it feel so sad? But I know that also my story is evolving over time. And me, just as an artist is evolving over time. Yeah, ultimately, the goal of this work that I'm producing in this space is really just to be a light to the community, for people to look at it and say, wow, that is cool, and tell me more about it. And I remember the first time I had a painting called Red Hat and it was exhibited. A woman looked at me, this was before I became a Christian, and I had just painted this with some technical things of like, I don't know what to do with the background, so I'm gonna just flare it out and just, then I'm gonna make this color and add this color in there. But when she looked at it, she said, I see a person who has darkness all around them, but is still shining despite all of the darkness that's around them. And I said, that's much better than what I got. I'm gonna say that to people instead of just, this is, and I would deny it.
Can you say that again?
Right. I needed her to come back because she said it much more profound than that. But it became like the backdrop for like, my story when I eventually did give my life to Christ, where it was like, wow, like, even in those times where like, and I was in a dark place, I was depressed, I was like, what is my life going? What is going on? I was only 27, I'm like almost 10 years later now, still feeling like, I'm confused, but I don't feel that heaviness that I felt when I was introduced to art as a way to really like just express myself and really, I would say, give myself therapy. And at the time, I thought it was just about me painting and putting paint on the brush. But then I realized that, well, in the same vein, like the very first scripture in the Bible is that God created everything that exists around us by speaking it into existence. And so creativity is like the ultimate form of me trying to imitate God.
Oh, because he was an artist.
He was an artist. He was a creator.
Look at us.
So we are all like created in his image. And that for me was something that when the light bulb went off, right? Like there's like, that's my theme of like, painting so much and talking so much about the light, because we are all ultimately just kind of like coming to our own awakening when we are coming to realize that like there is a God that created this world that loves us, and that we have hope.
I love it.
Yeah.
When did you start painting?
I started painting in 2014.
So what did you do before?
I worked in out of school time programming. And so what is that? I was an after school teacher. I was a summer camp counselor, a summer camp
So
coordinator.
you like kids?
I didn't say that.
Yo!
I didn't say that.
My bills.
You know, all right, no.
Yo, that's hysterical.
Here's
Wait, are you
You kept it 100 right there.
I am from the hood.
Wait,
yes.
I just want to say, people from the hood, there's always a few things that they do or say. I grew up and raised like all my cousins and brothers and sisters, so
Right.
most of them end up working in education
Right.
because they know
Yeah.
how to take care of kids.
This the skill set, you know? But no, I do enjoy working with children. Do I like them all the time?
No.
Not really.
I don't think
you know?
anyone who works in education likes kids all the time.
Right,
Let's be
you know.
clear.
No, I love the ability to be able to give back in that way.
Yeah.
There is something about the aha moment when you're working with young people where they're like, oh snap, like if I do this and I do this, it makes this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so in my work and the work that I was doing before, I was teaching math. I was helping kids with homework, you know, I had grown up going to West End Neighborhood House, and I was a kid that would get off the bus, go into West End, and somebody was helping me with my homework, and somebody was gonna give me snack. And then, you know, when it was time for me to get my first job, it was like they were giving me my first job. And what was that job?
That's beautiful.
To work with kids. It was a cycle.
Yep.
It was a trap. No, it was
Always that big trap.
Oh yeah.
but it was also like not just the aspect of working with young people, but the aspect of community.
Yeah.
You know, that was being instilled within me. And so
Yeah.
it was just like when I did finally eventually become a Christian, it was just like, oh, this is where you be at. Ooh,
Yeah.
this is where you be working.
Yeah.
In those moments. And so I was in that's ultimately why I sort of was an easy pick for the museum or for DIAE to be like, you know what? You already worked with kids?
Come
Oh, you
on
used to work with
in.
them? Yeah, come on
Gotcha.
in. Like, I don't have a teaching certificate. You know, I don't have none of that.
You got a certificate of life.
Come on now, certified, you know. Listen, I'm qualified. Amen.
So you're here
yes.
till April 15th.
April 15th.
That's also another big day.
That's the day my baby due. Yeah. So, listen, life is lifing.
You are helping to build the community and
Yes.
building a community all at the same time.
Right at my house.
So,
Yeah.
do you have, like, what is sort of your vision? I know it's not all yours, but like right now, what would you like to see happen with this place over the next maybe year or two? You know what I'm
That's a
saying?
great question. Yeah, that's a great question.
Jay?
Yeah, I'm joking. I was gonna pull like I had a list, like I just had it
no.
prepared.
Right.
No, I don't. But ultimately, some of what we already talked about, just in terms of this being a space that gives to the community. I'm becoming familiar with the term of creative placemaking, and I might butcher it. Don't judge me. But I understand it to be using creativity to build up a community.
Yeah.
And I think that there's great potential for that in this space. And I think that it can also happen by building up the artist community so that they can then be their own form of creative placemakers to go into their place, the places that they would call home, and say, hey, I want to inspire people through art.
Yeah.
I want to help build up this community through the arts. And knowing that while we have great opportunities to create and to, you know, exist as creatives, I'm rocking some merch right now from Elize. I want to give a shout out
we
to
love
her.
her. Yes, yes.
Yeah. But like, you know, we all get to like do those types of cool things as artists, and that helps us just to survive.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, thinking about like, how can I do something that's also like going to help build up this community in a creative way? And no shot at all to like any of the projects that I've been a part of, but like, you know, beautification is kind of always the thing that's like pointed at like, oh, we're gonna go paint a mural, or we're gonna go do this. And it's just like, I haven't thought through all of the prospects of how we can truly sort of embody that that sense of using creativity to build up the community. But I think that there are other ways than just making things look pretty on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, really, my goal and my hope would be that they would feel a greater sense of trying to inspire people from the inside out.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there are enough spaces within the city to do that, or that give artists, whether visual, music, or any other medium, do you think that there are enough places that allow that or give that space?
No.
Okay.
Do you? No. And that's not a bad thing. You know, it is a bad thing, but
It's a good
it's
problem
not.
to work on.
It's a good
Yes.
problem to work on. It's a good problem to work on. You know, when I think about places like Wilmington Alliance or even like West Side Grows that are, you know, I think they're like, what are they, like economic development is like sort of their goal, or that's the thing that's sort of the driving force behind them. And a part of that is, you know, how are we helping artists in the community to thrive? Because it's like a key point of like a place that's thriving is how are the artists doing? How are the
Which
people
is so
who...
interesting.
Yeah.
Because say that again.
I'm saying that a key metric that people look at for the success of a city or a town, this is a city town,
Right.
is, you know, well, how is the artist community thriving? You know.
So why is it so difficult?
Why are you asking me? I'm joking. Go ahead, ask your question.
Why is it so difficult to give the artists the space and the ability and the funds and the recognition within the city?
I wish I knew. I'm asking these questions too. I think though that it just has to, there's not an inclusion of the right people always at the table.
Yeah.
And I don't even know always what the right people look like, but what I would say is even there comes a point where even 1, 2, and 3, we become so far removed, like from what it looks like for the artist who's like graduating high school, who's living in the city and who says, all right, well, I want to be an artist, but I have to move, but I have to go somewhere else. There's no option to truly do that here and be successful. And so I think the hope is that we don't lose our like sense of like, this is what we need as artists, and when we're thinking about that, we're not just thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
We're thinking about the community as a whole, so that if any of us ever gets in the position to be directing any type of like creative arts organization or creative organization or economic development organization, or you working at one of these places that's popping up buildings all over the place, and that you're saying like, hey, this is a necessary component for this city.
Yeah.
Like, this is not something that should be optional.
Why is it a necessary component? Because I think that is the fundamental question that people can't get their heads around. That's a big question I just asked you.
Right.
Why do you think, what is the value? Why do we need art? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Art is already all around us. Everything, when you can peer into anything, and there is someone behind the thing that you're looking at that was created.
Yeah.
And so, be that a street sign, be that a poster, be that
A building,
you know, a car, all of the things that you are looking at in these spaces have to be designed at some point.
Yeah.
And so if people lose their sense of creativity, right, or if they only see creativity as something that can be just a hobby, or just that it's not something that can also inspire people and help people and make people feel a sense, like, who wants to go to Clifford Brown Jazz Festival if it ain't no musicians there?
right?
Like, if all we can do is go eat. And while we're talking about eating, those are culinary artists. What happens?
For sure.
What happens when?
For sure.
So creativity, I think, while it's a broad spectrum, I think that when, unfortunately, I feel like visual creatives and music creatives are kind of like the first people to go, because it's like,
Which makes
well,
no sense.
yeah,
No sense.
yeah,
But people, I think that it's one of those things where, like, okay, actually, you bring up food, like, you have to eat. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's unfortunately for chefs, it's something that's literally tied to our vitality.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can make it taste good, fine, I'll pay. Everybody wants to eat. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
like, people don't actively think about what it would be like if you walked into a restaurant and no music was playing.
right,
Yeah.
no,
Or they don't actively really imagine, like, what if we didn't have Clifford Brown?
Right.
What if I walked into a room and it looked like my house and just
right,
white
and it was
walls
just white walls everywhere. Yeah,
You go nuts.
Right.
I think that people don't actively think about it, and I don't know if we have some role in trying to remind them, but it's a dilemma, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that our role ultimately is to continue doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We continue having the
Yeah.
conversation, we continue to talk to creatives, and we continue to be present within spaces. And when someone's bringing me an opportunity in 2024, I'm not just thinking about myself as a visual creative. When Chiffon left this residency, she said, I think this residency needs to be longer. And that wasn't gonna help her to say that for me. I mean, but she was not just thinking about, like, I need a little more time in this space. But no,
Right.
she was thinking about the next artist who comes into this space
Right.
Yeah.
is going to need maybe a little bit more time to really like allow this to be like effective.
Yeah.
And I think that as artists, as creatives, even though we sometimes can feel like we're crabs in a bucket, we're all trying to get at the same small pots that exist. I think we have to start to think beyond ourselves as creatives and
Yeah.
think about ourselves as a community.
Yeah, and to that point, I just feel like fundamentally, you can't have an overly crowded room of artists if all the artists are authentically themselves, because everyone is totally different.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not a coincidence, talking about restaurants again,
Yeah.
that right here there's like, in a very small area,
Right.
there are like 4 or 5 top tier places to eat.
Right.
No one's not getting eaten
No,
at. You know what I'm
no.
saying?
Right,
Because
right,
it's
right.
like people, and they're all very unique places. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat there tonight, and
Right.
you just keep on
Yeah.
eating.
Yeah.
So
And I think that even when I look at, like, I used to call us like the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, because we were like, listen, it's like, it's me, it's Terrence, it's Aline, it's Seven, it's Andre Renier, and it's Smash Label. Like, to me, and then, like, you got your extensions, Ralph Marley.
Yeah,
I could go on and on and on, but I just remember there was a season where I'm like, look at, and James White, I don't want to forget him.
Yeah.
But there were just like all these like black male creatives that I was just like so like inspired to see that, like, I granted we're a small city and there could be so much more, but they're
Yeah.
all so talented, and we're all so talented and
unique.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's my whole point.
Right.
Actually. It's like
Right.
nobody should leave that circle.
Right,
and
right,
bring more,
right.
Please, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so seeing that for me, like, specifically as like a man of color, like as a black man, I was just like, our story is one that like will be told one day in this city.
Yeah.
When we look at like Edward Loper, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And like we think about like Edward Loper Jr., Edward Loper Sr., and just their impact that they had, not just to even this city, but like to the arts community abroad. Like I get excited because I'm like,
You're the next generation.
right,
Of that.
you know what I mean? So when I see Terrence like doing what he's doing, when I see Aline doing what he's doing, and Seven doing what he's doing, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, these are people who in 2018 were all like were not as far as they are now.
Right,
like when
right.
I first came into the scene. And so
And y'all
seeing
all
them
have
now.
been supporting each other through
Absolutely.
this entire ride.
Yeah.
And you mentioned 7 people,
Mm-hmm.
8 people,
Yeah.
all black males. That like literally just like I got chills when you.
Yeah.
In that moment, I was like, oh my God, they're all black men.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All supporting each other, all growing, and now each have their own little pocket of success stemming from one group.
Yeah. And our growth throughout the time, like I remember there was.
It's gonna, we gotta do like the
Right.
NBA
Right. Listen, because there was
Wu-Tang
like I remember when we was like, you know, it was drama in the scene, but like even like seeing them all now and like it's like, oh man, like we're truly like blessed to like really be the light in this community, and like that's my hope. And, you know, that's what I want to like sort of like where from my vantage point as a Christian, I'm just like, you know, like seeing all the positive things that people are doing is ultimately like when people walk past this Divine Minds mural, kids that see like this, you know, this crown that lives within inside of them, I think about that inspiration. When they walk past Be the Light, Spread Love, and like that's still there in all this time, it's like those are the things for me that are, I think, just crucial for young black men, young black male creatives that love anime or that love these forms of artistry as they come up, and knowing that like, you know, it's possible for them here. So
I just have to, when you said that made me think like when Jay goes to some schools and he performs his music and the kids are inspired to write their own songs, or they remember his songs, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
What? I didn't like, well, why are you doing it, sir?
Right. Oh man.
And to all both of these points, as you were saying all that, I'm thinking, you know, we have decades on decades of future.
Yes.
Right.
Like y'all are young. You know what I'm saying? Like
there's so much.
You're in your 30s, you know?
Yeah.
You know, hope you get to 100, you know what I'm saying?
I'm hoping too.
And continue to create. So that's how many decades of, you know, you talk about just 2018 to 2024.
Right.
So let's you know, triple, quadruple that.
Absolutely.
That's a real legacy.
Absolutely.
You know?
So seeing just like, and the thing is like, granted, I want us to all celebrate our small victories, but like we still striving for more. You know, it's like seeing like the president this is like his hometown. This is where his like campaign headquarters are, and seeing like local artists getting an opportunity to be exposed within that space is a beautiful thing. Yeah. But don't like use us as like sort of this to have this narrative of like we give back, we serve the community, we serve the artists and all of those things. If when it comes time to actually have policy, that same energy isn't there. And so I think that's just ultimately what I want to see spaces and places like Wilmington Alliance sort of drive at the higher level. Is, you know, like what they do down here, like even this residency is pivotal, and it's a great opportunity for individual artists. But it's, you know, how can this be multiplied? You know what I mean? Like how can it be supported in, you know, a banking institution or whatever the case may be? And so that is what my hope is that, you know, people aren't just looking at like, oh, that's a nice piece that came out of it. How much is it worth? And like, what is the value of it monetarily, but seeing the value of it to this community as a whole, and not just what it's going to bring in terms of revenue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when can we see your final works?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I will be here.
It might not arrive when you want to, but it always arrives.
It'll be on time. Amen. So it will be on time. No, so the goal with it is
Stop honking.
I'm sorry.
Listen, it's like we showing our age right now. Listen, it's okay. Ain't no thing. It ain't no thing.
Oh my God.
Listen, I've always wanted to be an old black man. Like, so I'm super excited. You know, I feel like I'm getting my stripes
He's
right now in
looking
this
up to you,
moment. I am. I'm like, it gotta have a little bravado in it.
Oh my God.
But anyway, when is my work gonna be done? It'll. Great. When it get
It'll be
done.
on time.
The goal of this residency is not and a finished product. And like, I have to shout out Ashley Davis in this moment because that is something she is always driving to me in my creative residencies with, or my teaching residencies with schools, is, you know, the goal isn't necessarily the finished product. The process is let's look at the process as the product. And so for me, getting into this space and thinking about light refraction, right? So when a light shines through something, that it has a tendency to kind of expand and have a different appearance than it did when it started.
That was inspiring.
That's why you get a lens hood so that you can control light refraction.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh my God,
yes, exactly.
I got to write that down.
Yeah. So in that vein, that's, you know, having already done sort of street lights, and I had all these posters that I created that talked about light in the darkness and just sort of Jesus being the light of the world. I wanted to expand on that idea and think about, well, now as the light has been shown unto me, and now it's shining through me to someone else, now what does that light look like? And so that's what I'm creating here. I'm creating the refraction of the light through me. Yeah.
I love that.
Amen.
I really like that.
I love that.
Anything else? Because that was the perfect ending, quite frankly.
Thank you for watching. Can they come by and see you?
No. I love y'all, but don't come here.
I'm trying to work.
I'm working. Okay, don't come here.
Leave his, this is his piece. This is his piece, y'all. No, stay back.
Don't come by. I mean, if you drive by.
The Art-O-Mat is in Newark.
It is over the sunny hills of, you know.
You can follow him.
Absolutely.
Where can they follow you?
You can follow me at JaQuanne.LeRoy on Instagram. Amen. I'll be posting there weekly.
And your church.
And you can come to church, okay? IB's at Epiphany Church of Wilmington every Sunday. I won't be there when this baby comes, but I'll be there 9:30 or 11:30. Come see me. We can talk about art and God and all of those things, but don't come here, okay? I'm creating in here and I need this time. You know, I don't have much time, so yes.
JaQuanne.
Hey.
Reflecting the light of Jesus.